Alright, so let me try this without the buds. My buds just died on me. I'm not too sure the phone mic would work for this, so if it turn out good, fine. If not, rehearsal for the actual video, right? So, yeah, speaking to you today, and welcome to my page. Again, speaking to you today, and the another pillar of manhood, um, money, right? I hope you've been following the series so far. They're in a series, a particular order for a reason. They are leading up to the next pillar. Today we want to talk about money. So, I do make hope 2024 is going on fine. That's why I like doing these things with inspiration. I don't like remaking videos. It seems so inauthentic. But I'm just gonna spit, man. Whatever. So yeah, so hope the 2024 are going all right for you guys. Hope your New Year's resolution are going okay if you're into that sort of thing. Hope by enforcing your will, you actually have got through your New Year's resolutions and your plans and your goals and the King's path. Being ascending males and all of this. So wishing you all the best in that regard. So, dropping some more information, sharing from my experiences, and today we're going to talk about money, right? So, what would I qualify me to talk to you about this is one, I'm doing what I'm going to say to you, right? And the other is that, I'm going to spend about 15 years in the financial sector, selling there, right? Licensable for give you financial advice, you know, by the FSC, right? And, as I said, if it's bullshit, you'll hear it, all right? This is the age of information, man. Nonsense when time you hear it. So, as I said, just I try to impart some information to, younger generations where possibly just, have an insight from just like somebody, just a regular person on the road that I might try to do here, right? If I gonna use social media, like it stand for something. All right. So, when it comes to money, it's kind of like an emotional topic. Unless you like being taught like how to actually manage money, you kind of pretty much just learning on the fly. You're making simple mistakes where you just kind of learn from unless somebody did teach this to you. Most people not really like start out with a game with like a plan, like a genuine roadmap to how you actually like go gain wealth and actually do what you want to do and accomplish the goals that you have. So this video now is an attempt to try to do that. They try to give you like a plan and roadmap where you can actually go through step by step. It's workable, applicable in this real world situation, and build your wealth, achieve your goals. Being on the king's path, if you're gonna be an ascending male, you're gonna need wealth. You can't enforce anything without wealth. You can't help anybody. You can't help your family without wealth. So, what I want to share to you today is the plan. I call it the plan. It's certainly not like an original plan, mind you, but possibly it's probably I've never communicated to you this way, and this one I'm gonna try to do for you today, right? So, when it comes to money, I'm assuming that you know the basics, right? You understand what a budget is, you understand what a dollar is, you understand the basics. You're an adult. You a stable adult. I'm assuming this is where we're starting from. All right. If if there's circumstances are different, of course, we understand, and it's never too late to get on the king's path. But for the ease of communicating information, that's what I go assume. If anything else, well, we can communicate about that. Comment. Let me know what's what. All right. So, assuming everything is fine, the first thing you want to do, and I'll give some references at the end of the video. The first thing you kind of want to do is ensure say you securing your 10%. This is the first step of the plan. What is your 10%? Your 10% basically is the amount of money you secure for yourself every time you make money. So if you make $1,000, $100 is yours. It's not going to pay no bill. It's not going to nothing else other than your personal stash. This is the stash you're building. This is your 10%. So when you work each month, and you make your gross, all of that money is not yours. Yeah, you see it on your pay slip, you see it when time you go file your taxes. You make a dollar, there's some amount of money that will go to the government, some amount of money that go to insurance, utilities, all these other things, savings if you have it, right? So this stash where you go start build your 10%, you have to start secure that. That's the very first step, right? And it's simple math. You make 10 coins, you just spend 9. You always leave a coin back in your purse. You always leave that $100 in your account. You're always building up your stash, right? This is where now everything is going to come from. Every move that you're going to make financially are going to come from your stash. So therefore you must establish your stash. And your stash more than likely needs to be about 6 months to a year of your expenses. So argument's sake, say your expenses are say 100, you're making $1,000. We're gonna work with $1,000 example. Say your expenses come up to say $800 a month, right? $1,000 a month, you know, to make it easy. So you would need at least $6,000 within your account. This is where you're gonna build up your stash from. So every month when you get your income, you secure your 10% that is going towards your stash, which your stash is at least 6 months to a year of your income, right? That's the very first thing you need to establish on the King's Path, your stash, right? And mind you, there's many ways, you know, income can be made. I'm not saying that you necessarily have to be a 9 to 5 so you know you can see that 10% or what have you. What I'm saying is that you need to secure that part of that your income you make every week, every day, every month, whatever the case may be, that 10% you have to secure for yourself, and nobody knows about this. And you can keep this stash in many forms. If you feel if you don't necessarily feel comfortable with it at the bank, no, not under your mattress. All right. There's other stuff that you can do. Precious metal is a good way to do it. Usually, when time you see persons with jewelry, wearable jewelry, it looks may kind of look kind of flamboyant, you know, but nah, there's actually like a wisdom to it. Drug dealers used to do this a lot, where you see them have these big chains and big watches on. I think under law, you see when time say the police raid your home or whatever, you're traveling or whatever, what you're wearing, I think they can't confiscate that. I think that's the case in terms of like you know, the law when time never confiscate your ill-gotten gain or what have you. They can't take your whatever you're wearing on you. So they come to your house and you search. Most drug dealers, they put on a lot, all of the wealthy stuff, the furs and the jewelry and whatever, so that the police can't seize that. So a sensible way if you kind of like store your stash, if you're not necessarily comfortable with it, you know, the bank, is wearable jewelry. And mind you know, buy you know, have your stash and secure whatever your 6 months to a year income in wearable jewelry. Is not that liquid, number one. So we need to establish that so if you kind of like uncomfortable with the bank, you know, it get kind of complex, but there's ways to do it. All right. So the first thing, as we say, you establish your stash. So you're working your $1,000 per month, you're saving your $100 that goes to your stash, which you work towards the 6 months to a year of your income. Right. So that's the first step that you gonna need to start out with money. And that may sound simple, but the reason why this video is kind of like done in series is like this, is so that like certain skills you would actually have to develop first before you can actually like take this on a serious level, because here willpower are gonna be kind of like really paramount in terms of like how you're gonna actually make yourself be disciplined enough to follow through in sticking to your budget, sticking to the goals and where you set, sticking to the markers where you set for yourself. So honestly, the wealth building thing can't come unless you develop the will to do it. It really is a mental thing when it comes down to it. So the building up your stash is kind of like a lot of challenges that could come in terms of building your stash. A lot of temptations you're gonna have to overcome. They actually like secure that 10% for yourself and not you know, expend it either in you know, consumer stuff or, you know, utilities or whatever the case may be. it's it's gonna be tough. We all have this thing. When you have money, people always like come and borrow from you, right? You kind of have to understand, like, your goals come first, right? So this is a nice little segue if kind of like speak about this and how you see money. Your stash is sacred. Your stash is just for you. Whatever you're gonna help persons with is not from your stash. That has to be from something else, right? So if we just make it simple, it's not a case where you like, you have to stand so back and not help anybody any at all. Nah. It's just that you have to understand the stash is sacred. Nothing touches the stash. Whatever you help anybody with is not from the stash. Alright? So that's how you deal with that. And do with that how you see fit. Manage that how you see fit. Mm. So inspiration for this even 10% is this stash thing. It comes from this book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Absolute must read if you're going to even take on this wealth building thing. You have to read that book. It's a tremendous foundational knowledge for actually like start on the road to building your wealth. The next step now, after you have your stash, you have your 6 months to a year money secure, your surplus, what you gonna do with it, right? Money loses value, right? $1,000 today is not going to work the same thing next year, right? Whatever I can buy with $1,000 today, I won't be able to buy that the same thing next year. It's a design flaw in how the money is set up. So you're kind of in a this constant perpetual investment game sort of situation, because you actually have to always add value to the money you have now for it to remain relevant. If you give you a mental picture, imagine being in a sinking ship and the water is rising and you have to constantly just keep climbing up to avoid the water coming. That's really like how the game is set up. And this advice now is kind of like to help you feel like climb up and even probably get your own boat in this situation. All right, so this is my aim in trying to share this information with you. All right, so you have to invest monies now. You can't just have it sitting at the bank and just looking at it. It's good to look at it, because having this 6 months to a year money, being able to can call upon $500,000 like that, it gives you a lot of confidence in terms of like how you interact even with your employees, with the opposite sex, with your friends, with your family. Being able to can move so securely because you have the capital to do that sort of thing, is really empowering. That's really like where a male's confidence come from, knowing say yes, him can create value just like that, right, at the drop of a hat. So having this is great. So having it in the bank and looking at it and getting the confidence from that is cool, yeah, but your money losing value, right? You can't be stacking it up. So you really do have to have the knowledge to actually wield your income, especially if you have a will and the wherewithal to actually gather 6 months to a year of your income. It sounds simple, but not many people able to do that, especially if you're gonna raise a family and stuff like that. That's no small feat. So if you're here, you have your money, you can't keep just be building at it, not looking at the bank. It's a net loss. So you kind of have to find avenues now in which you're going to invest your money. Now, for a number of reasons, real estate was my next move from here. After securing 6 months to a year monies, real estate is the next move. And I can show you now how having that 6 months to a year money, when time you're going to make that real estate move, actually makes sense. So you have the 6 months to a year money. We use NHD here on the island, right, as a contributor, and I'm assuming you're contributing because you're employed. If you're not employed and you're self-employed, they can actually self-contribute for like a year, and then this advice would apply to you, right? So you actually have a benefit to get NHD. I think it go up to about 7.5 now, and depending upon where the income scale is, and you're probably not gonna pay no interest on it, right? So the next move, well, what I would suggest is real estate, and we have an NHD if you do that. Another point I will make here, and it actually have to do with the next pillar where I go explain, where I go actually convey to, which you have to deal with females. having real estate is actually like a huge help when we are going to deal with females, when time we are going to actually build the legacy now, right? They actually build the dynasty. Real estate is going to be really like a huge separator in terms of like you and how she see you compared to everybody else. So it's kind of like one of the moves that I would suggest. But then again, there's many ways uphill. This is the king's path that I'm communicating to you. You must use it. You can use your own. But I would suggest the next move where you make after accomplishing that 6 months to a year money in your account is acquiring real estate. So here you have the NHD, and you actually have to come up with 5 to 10% of your down payment. Now, when time it comes to real estate and trying to build your first home in this way, not necessarily commercial real estate investing, you build your first home. Commercial real estate is another topic. So if you want to get into that, that's another thing. Comment, let me know. And right, so you're gonna need your 5 to 10% down payment, even when time you have your NHD benefit. Right, so this is where now you like your 6 months to a year money come in, because now you can make moves that 500,000 until they can drop on like that. This is kind of like one of them. This is kind of like one of the old, the stash is sacred, remember, right? So if you go actually touch the stash, this is actually like a major move where you go actually do. The stash is in place, is your security net, we make sure say everything is fine. So if you go actually touch the stash, one, it have to be the acquisition of assets, we are going to actually appreciate, not just assets, but just assets, willy-nilly assets. Assets we are going to appreciate and actually going to make like a huge difference, a multiplier effect on your wealth and income game going forward. And two, you have to be stable. Two, you have to be very stable. So if your income is not a stable income, even though yes you have your stash, but your income, you can't depend on your income, you kind of have to secure that first. These moves have to make with like a stable sort of income. And a lot can be said, if your income up and down, or as me say, if you're in the underground economy, a lot can be said about that. But you actually have to find a way to stabilize your income. I don't care which path you're taking, you have to stabilize your income if you're going to actually start build wealth. There's a whole heap of complexities will come with that. But again, as me I go assume you have your income stable and you can touch your stash at will if you actually acquire assets, we are going to actually have a multiplier effects on your wealth game. And real estate is one of them ways that we are going to do that. So you have your stash. Your stash is going to be the 5% or 10% down payment on the property where you're going to buy. Now, are you going to buy or build? This is another decision where you have to make. You have a 5% or 10% at the down payment, but 5% or 10% on a $7 million property, as opposed to 5 or 10% on a $17 million property is two different things. One about 700,000, the other is 1.7. So you kind of have to decide exactly which place on the game you are. Can you buy or can you build? And there's advantages and disadvantages for both. Now, since me decide to wait this long for talk about this topic, I guess we are gonna just ramble on about all of them. Me just realizing how big this topic is, but bear with me. All right, I have my beer. I'm gonna try to get through it. Go. Sorry, you're gonna buy or build when it comes with real estate. When I did numbers, Jamaica is a tourist destination. The real estate here that can be livable real estate, as opposed to agricultural land and stuff, is not much, right? The price is ridiculous, and you have a few centers where you really like want to make sure, because when you invest, it really is location. When it comes to real estate, a book that inspired me was, and you may have your views about him now, but I mean, back in the day when I was reading this book, the book Art of the Deal by Donald Trump, he was like a huge inspiration for how I view real estate, and like we see the fun in actually like making your acquisitions and making moves. in the real estate game. That's where my dreams come from. That's where my inspiration come from, and I would suggest that for you too, because even actually going into the life, actually making a real estate deal, and it would be great foundation in like any simple deal, even just buying a house with NHT. Knowing and having an idea how the mindset, how people work in the real estate game is a good foundation. So yeah, and that book even up on YouTube, so you can check that out. But if you are gonna build or buy, the cost is huge, and starting from scratch earth, which we me think where I start from, kind of like where me start from as well. The only option to make it look like to me is building, unless your income game is up like that, where like you have the high income where you could actually like make a payment and like an apartment in the city, or a townhouse in Mobile or something like that. If you can make those moves, if you have the income stable and good enough, you can make those big game moves with buying actual property in a dumb tourist area there, and the Ardham residential areas all over the parishes. It would be great. But for most persons starting scratch earth like myself here, you kind of have to build. The money just makes sense. So because if you buy a property, I would suggest buying a property within like a $3.5 million range, like what NHG would give for land. That's kind of like your budget when you buy a property. And when buying a property, I would suggest finding a gated community before it go public, or as it go public you move, because that price where them advertise at is gonna move, it's gonna go north, it don't go down, it only go one way. So far, in a problem so far real estate on the island really just go one way, right? So you're gonna acquire real estate. So you take your stash, you use your stash to make your 5 or your 10% down payment. You work with NHG, you acquire real estate, right? All right. Now, mind you, throughout all this, you're actually like still saving and putting towards that 10% going back to your stash, rebuild your stash, even though you put some in real estate. But each time you actually build up your stash to a level like this, you're gonna always like make acquisition of assets. Remember, the money isn't valuable. It is what the money can get you is. So as your stash build to a level where like you already secure your 6 or your 1 year expenses, you actually have to make acquisitions. You actually have to make investments. The water is rising. Remember, right? So you make your acquisition of real estate. I'm assuming you buy land. There's a lot that comes with the actual building of a property. Your people skills have to be on point. Honestly, the actual technicalities of actually like developing real estate is rather simple. It's really like 1 + 1 = 2, but it's the people element that is the honest, that's a clincher there. So your people game gonna have to be on point, because deciding to build you actually yes, it's a cheaper route because the down payment part is easier and you can take on the debt slightly. So if you're using debt from an HTP actually build, you can take it down slowly, and I think they give you like moratoriums as well. They give you time in which you can, I give you like about a year or so before you can actually start repaying that mortgage for the construction. Excuse me. Authentic, remember, right? So you're gonna have you take on that debt slowly rather than just taking it on all at once. Meantime, you're buying a house. But ergo is the ease, because the only thing it costs you if you actually buy the house is money, and it's relatively simple. You avoid all of these problems I'm gonna tell you about now with the building, but it is relatively simple when time you actually just go in, buy a place and go in. The downside is the equity and the value of the property in that house. It takes some time to build up because you bought the property probably at market price. So the market takes some time to move, even though everything moves north. It takes some time to move. So you wouldn't have much leverage in that property right away. Probably like I'll be a good like 6 or 12 years before you actually like see real. Well, who knows what happens in the market, right? I'm assuming a stable, steady market that is going, but who knows, right? The recent events will tell you anything, right? So yeah. Yeah, there will be some lane in which the value you can access in that real estate if you buy, but if you build, you let's give you an example. So let's say you see a house on the market for $18 million, right? It didn't take $18 million to build that home. It just said the market say it's worth $18 million. It probably took like 8 to build, and the market, depending upon the value of money and the available homes and the demand of people where I try to buy, the price is the price. See? So you buy the if you when you buy the property, you buy it at the market price. So you kind of have to wait for the value of that property to increase. Whereas when you buy the property to build, you actually, each improvement you develop on the real estate, it actually increases the value incrementally, right? And that same $8 million that was used to build this house that was bought, if you apply it to yours, you'd have a house that is valued at $18 million, but you only spent 8. So that extra $10 million now is yours in terms of like equity and leverage, where you can actually use to make a next move, what we're gonna talk about in a second, right? So the building process now, as I say, is gonna test everything in terms of like the ability to have concepts in your mind. Remember that when we talk about having concepts in your mind, you bring it into reality to have the people skills them to manage persons, to have the financial game, to manage the budget, to make your deals in terms of like your supplies and your labor, right? All of these skills gonna come together to actually have your project done. And when you're done, that equity where you have in it, that's your reward for the being able to manage such a project and bring to fruition. So that's the road what I suggest for you. It's one way you can take it. It costs you time, because an argument can be made with like, okay, all right, you're building the property, but at the same time the price and the market is going up a lot faster, so it makes sense you just buy the property, because the value of the dollar will be going down. The same thing with the $1,000, the value the same thing, the value of the dollar will be going down, so it makes sense to actually buy the property rather than taking time in which like the labor and the material will be increasing in value while you're building. So an argument could be made for that. And thankfully this market is relatively stable. We're not seeing such a disparity in terms of like building the property. So what I still suggest you building the property. Let's see what the market said going forward, but for now the advice is such, right? So when you build your property now, mind you, you have your stash, you have your 5 to 10% income coming in, right? You have your real estate. The next move now is you need to free yourself from whatever income you're generating right now. If it requires your time to do it, you're trapped, right? And you need to get away, right? So this is the very next move, and probably the final move after this. Now you can freestyle, right? But this is the plan pretty much. You have your work on your 10% income. You work on your stash, so you have at least 6 months to a year income coming in. You are gonna acquire real estate where you either build or buy it. As I said, see the examples what we give a while ago. You determine which way you're gonna go. Now you're gonna leverage that equity, that's power in your both in your stash and in this real estate now, to actually free yourself from actually generating your income. Like a wrong was that? Right. From generating your income, because if you actually have to use it and you have to show up someplace at a certain time to actually make your money, then you're trapped. You're still not free. You're still not fully on the king's path. Mind you, I'm still on this road too. So I'm not talking down at you or nothing like that, right? Because I'm still somewhere in here, right? I'm still in the system. I'm not yet out, but that's the aim. The aim is where you're gonna use this stash, the will and all of this, where you develop all of this nobility and sacrifice you've made, this stash that you have accumulated, this real estate that you have built or acquired. You're gonna use this now for making next step where you're gonna free yourself. And personally, my intention is to use real estate and free myself. So here now, I would use the equity in my property what I have here now to acquire other real estate, which we can use for Jamaica is a tourist destination. The plan is we actually like have some get in the tourist game, man. This Airbnb thing is going on great. It's just a matter of like you've learned the skills to build property from building your home. So I'm assuming say you can actually step out, buy land, build a unit. You have the business sense and the people skills from building your home now. So have these skills where you can apply in business. If you actually have that income generating enough money so that you can free yourself. The same amount of money you're making now, that stable income that you are generating to reach this point, you need to actually create a business now that creates that for you, whether you are awake or asleep. That's the aim. And now, after reaching that point, the king's path truly begins, because you have influence, you've developed these personal skills, you've acquired this wealth where you can actually like make things happen in your reality now, and you're now a king in a sense where and mind you, the control never stops. So don't get me wrong, though you're financially free, there's always rules. There's no freedom in terms of like being beyond rules. There's always rules, no matter how wealthy you are and powerful you are, right? So there's always that, but yeah, having reaching this stage now, you can actually make changes, right? You can actually help people. So after freeing yourself in your business, my business idea is actually real estate, but this is kind of like a plan in how you can actually develop your wealth game. And of course, it may not work as cleanly. These are just overviews. It's a lot more complex, even though I try my very best here, but it's a lot more than just that. But at least it should give you an idea of kind of like what you're looking at in terms of like the step by steps, the big picture step by step. So you don't need to make they actually create the foundations for your wealth game where you can build going forward. Because you have stocks as well, buying businesses. You could have gone that route instead of real estate. Real estate is where I've gone, and the reason why I say real estate is it's kind of like an emotional thing as well here on the island. I mean, like every unrest you can think of, like every upheaval upon the island, as far back as you can think, it was always over land. Some fight over land. This land, in my view, was taken from us. I digress. So my mandate is to get back as much land as possible. So that's why real estate for me. But you could have gone, like say, possibly buying stocks or buying businesses. And if you want to talk some more about stocks, let me know. You can probably like make a supplemental video or something like that, right? But real estate was the thing for me, and because it's such an emotional thing on the island, it's kind of like a status thing. If you actually have land, they have the same as you're not yet a man unless you own a piece of land. I take that to heart, right? And my thing is to try to get as much real estate as we can possibly get, accumulate in this life. That's my thing. $400 million in assets is my goal. So let's see. Right. So this was the other pillar of wealth, money. Hope it was of some value. Tell me what you think. Comment down below. Send me a like. Share this for me. Yeah. Welcome to manhood.